I've had my Ribble Endurance for around a month or so, during which time I've done around 250 miles or 400 kilometers, which is probably a good time to be able to share my thoughts on it. So this particular model is a Ribble Endurance SL Disc Enthusiast. It's in black and it has the Ultegra group set, Ultegra mechanical group set. This is not a Di2 bike. So I'll split this video into two. I'll go through some of the main features with you. I won't bore you with the full spec, and then I'll talk about the bike's performance, how it's been for me in the last month or so, and of course what I think of it. So let's start with the front end then. The wheels are the Ribble's DB40, the 40 referring to the depth between the tyre and the spoke nipple. They are light, they are strong, and I haven't got any complaints about them. The one thing I do like about them is the spokes themselves are bladed spokes rather than round spokes, and I've had those on previous bikes and they've been really good. As you can see, the brakes are disc brakes. Of course, it's the disc version. On this particular one you have hydraulic disc brakes. You've then got what I consider to be the main feature of the bike. The level handlebars are absolutely beautiful. They're flat handlebars, as you can see, of course, and as I go around the bike back to front, you can see that there isn't a cable in sight. The out front mount, by the way, is not a Ribble product. It's something that I bought from Amazon, probably, for my Wahoo. You can get them for Garmin as well. To be honest with you, I was advised not to buy the Ribble out front mount because it was a little bit flimsy, and I was advised to buy something else. That came from the advisor within the Ribble showroom. Okay, onto the group set. So as I mentioned earlier, the Ultegra mechanical group set. So you've got a compact 5034 on the front and a very helpful 1132 on the back there. I've put a couple of water bottles on, as you can see. Those are Ribble's own water bottles and they seem to be able to do the job really well. Back end of the bike, one thing I should mention about the wheels, or the tyres in particular, these are Continental GP 5000 tyres, which are also excellent, but they're 28mm. Everybody seems to be moving away from the 23, 25, and I'm really glad that I've got 28mm tyres on there, because you do get that extra comfort. As I come up a little bit and look at the back end of the frame, you have another feature which is unique to this bike, I believe, which is the seat post. As you can see, there's nothing around the seat post that tightens it in. It's done through a wedge, and you can see there, and I hope the camera's picking up the Allen bolt within the wedge. So you put the wedge into the frame itself, and you tighten it to tighten in the seat post, and then it's covered in that very sleek little cover there, which sits on top of it and keeps the water out. Worth pointing out that the saddle that I've got on there is obviously not Ribble's, it's a Brooks saddle. It's a C17, and that's my saddle of choice. It's what I find comfortable. It is a little bit heavier than your standard saddle. The one it came with is a Sella Italia. That's it here. It is a nice saddle, I should say that. It's a little bit smaller, it's a little bit lighter, it's a good shape, so it's a good flat saddle. There's not a lot of give in it, I should say, and the only criticism I've got about this saddle is that it's, because of its rubber sort of content, it's very difficult to move forward and back on the saddle, and I like to do that sort of, you know, move forward and back, move forward when I'm climbing steep hills, backwards when I'm in a more relaxed mode. But apart from that, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. simply taken it off and replaced it with my own particular saddle. And then one final thing, the pedals, obviously it's a personal choice. I've got SBD SLs. These particular ones are 105 carbon pedals. They just happen to be the ones that I wanted, and that's the one that I fitted, and I get on fine with those. So what you're looking at here retails at around about £3,250 as of June 2022. Probably because it's standard colours and standard kit, it took 2 months to deliver. The question that so many people are asking about this bike is that it's called an endurance bike, but they don't feel that it is built for endurance. In fact, as you can see, it does look like a racing bike with a saddle significantly higher than the front end. I've been obviously done a couple of rides on this bike, one of 90 miles a few weeks ago, which is around 150 kilometers. Last weekend I was out, I did a 100-mile ride, 162 kilometers, and I found it to be very, very comfortable, surprisingly comfortable in fact. I was a little bit worried that sitting on the saddle like that and having the handlebars as low as they are in comparison would stretch my back a little bit too far, and I was a little bit worried about that. So normally I sit with my hands on the hoods, and on occasions on the drops. This was no problem at all last weekend, or when I've ridden it at any time, but most of the time I sit my hands resting on these handlebars, which again I find surprisingly comfortable. You can just ride with your hands literally just sat on top. So having talked about price, I guess one of the questions would be then, in summary, is would I feel that this bike is good value for money? So I got this on the Cycle to Work scheme, like I say. I think it's fantastic value for money, but I think even at the retail price that I quoted there, this bike still represents fantastic value for money, and I would certainly even pay retail price for it. The second question, again in summary, would I consider this to be a good endurance bike? Well, I've ridden 2 long rides on it, 90 miles and 100 miles, and I haven't had any problems. So if you do have fears about whether you feel it would be a good distance bike, I would allay those fears and make a recommendation that you take the chance on it. I think it's a great bike.